Saint Germain is one riddle who could never be solved, but we're doing the best we can in this 12-part series on the topic. Today is Chapter 2, Talents, but before we get started, I've left a small message in Cipher, so if you'd like to solve those, thank you, because it really helps the channel. To help, I've left a link to the mystical alphabets, and with that, let's get started with today's video.
Saint Germain, your Royal Highness, soothsayer, prophet, and practitioner of the dark arts.
Chapter 2, Talents. Saint Germain appears to have been very highly educated. According to Carl von Weber, he spoke German, English, Italian, Portuguese, and Spanish very well, and French with a Piedmontese accent. It was almost universally accorded that he had a charming grace and courtliness of manner. He displayed, moreover, in society a great variety of gifts, played several musical instruments excellently, and sometimes showed facilities and powers that bordered on the mysterious and incomprehensible. For example, one day he had dictated to him the first 20 verses of a poem and wrote them simultaneously with both hands on 2 separate sheets of paper. No one present could distinguish one sheet from the other. The Comte was recognized as an outstanding scholar and linguist of his day. His linguistic proficiency verged on the supernatural. He spoke German, English, Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, French, Greek, Latin, Sanskrit, Arabic, and Chinese with such fluency that in every land in which he visited, he was accepted as a native. Learned, writes one author, speaking every civilized language admirably, a great musician, an excellent chemist, he played the part of a prodigy, and he played it to perfection. Even his most relentless detractors admitted that the Comte was possessed of almost incredible attainments in every department of learning. A thorough knowledge of all languages, ancient and modern, a prodigious memory, erudition, of which glimpses could be caught between the caprices of his conversation, which was always amusing and occasionally very engaging. An inexhaustible skill in varying the tone and subjects of his conversation, in always being fresh, in infusing the unexpected into the most trivial discourses, made him a superb talker. Sometimes he recounted anecdotes of the court of the Valois or of princes still more remote with such precise accuracy in every detail as almost to create the illusion that he had been an eyewitness to what he narrated. The Comte was ambidextrous to such a degree that he could write the same article with both hands simultaneously. When the 2 pieces of paper were placed one upon the other with a light behind them, the writing on one sheet could exactly cover the writing on the other. He could repeat pages of print after one reading. To prove that the 2 lobes of his brain could work independently, he wrote a love letter with his right hand and a set of mystical verses with his left, both at the same time. He also sang beautifully. The Count asked for writing materials. Linden brought them. The Wonder Man cuts from a sheet of paper 2/4 of the sheet, places them quite close to each other, and seizes a pen with either hand simultaneously. He writes with both, half a page, signs alike, and says, "You collect autographs, sir. Choose one of these sheets. It is a matter of indifference which. The content is the same." "No, it is magic," exclaimed both friends. "Stroke for stroke, both handwritings agree. No trace of indifference. Unheard of." The writer smiles, places both sheets one on another, holds them up to the window pane. It seems as if there were only one writing to be seen. So exactly is one of the facsimile of the other. They appear as if they were impressions from the same copper plate. The witnesses were struck dumb. Secret Societies in the French Revolution by Una Birch. The things that are known about him are many, but they are outnumbered by the things that are not known. It is known, for example, that he was employed in the secret service of Louis XV, that he played the violin, wrote concertos and songs which are still extant, was a chemist, linguist, illuminate, and adept. But his name, his nationality, his means of subsistence, his object in traveling, and in intercourse with his fellow creatures are not known. And no one has made more than plausible suggestions as to the relation his accomplishments and activities bore to the central purpose of his life. He left a musical record behind him to remind the English people of his sojourn in this country. He was an industrious and capable artist and attracted a great deal of fashionable attention to himself, both as a composer and executant. Here's a copy of the music of the Comte de Saint Germain. I'll put that on the screen for a minute. In the realm of music, he was a master. Saint Germain was a splendid violinist. He played like an orchestra. The Count of Saint Germain accompanied on the piano without music sheets, not only every song, but the most difficult concerti played on various instruments. Rameau was much impressed with the playing of this dilettante and especially struck by his improvising. With regard to music, he not only played but composed, and both in a high taste. The Count paints beautifully in oils, but that which makes his painting so remarkable is a particular color, a secret which he has discovered, which lends to the painting an extraordinary brilliance. Van Loo, who never tries in his admiration of the surprising coloring, has often requested the Count to let him participate in the secret. Saint Germain, however, will not divulge it. He had a photographic memory because he had the ability to repeat word for word the contents of a newspaper he had read several days before. Cobengel expressed astonishment at Saint Germain's discoveries and telling of experiments made in dyeing skins and other substances under his own eyes. The treatment of skins, he asserted, was carried to a perfection which surpassed all the Moroccos in the world. The dyeing of silks was perfected to a degree hitherto unknown. Likewise the dyeing of woolens. Wood was dyed in the most brilliant colors and penetrated through and through the whole. Saint Germain always attributed his knowledge of occult chemistry to his sojourn in Asia. In 1755 he went to the East again for a second time, and writing to the Count von Lamberg, he said, "I am indebted for my knowledge of melting jewels to my second journey to India. On my first expedition I had but a very faint idea of this wonderful secret, and all the experiments I made in Vienna, Paris, and London were as such worthless." Some of the highlights of his career and his remarkable achievements are his mastery of all the European languages, which he spoke fluently and without any accent, his being one of the best swordsmen of his day, his technique with the violin, which was only equaled later but never surpassed by Paganini, and the fact that he was a high adept is borne out of the ample testimony to his remarkable powers of the mind. One can assert that a portion of his miracles are due to his knowledge of physics and chemistry, in which sciences he is well grounded. At all events, it is palpable that his knowledge has laid the seeds for him of sound good health, a life which will, or has, overstepped the ordinary time allotted to men, and has also endowed him with the means of preventing the ravages of time from affecting his body. Saint Germain was also an author. He wrote at least 2 books. There are 2 that we have, the Trinosophia and the Triangular Book of Saint Germain. Now, the Trinosophia, both of these books, are not originals. The original that Saint Germain wrote in his hand and drew the pictures himself, those have been lost to history and most likely been lost to secret societies. So this is a copy that was made probably in the 1700s, and we don't know who did this reproduction by hand. It's suspected that this copy of the Trinosophia was duplicated by Cagliostro. But nevertheless, this is the closest that we are going to get to Saint Germain's actual work. But we can add author and, of course, artist to Saint Germain's resume of talents. And this is the table of contents from this book, which is pretty good at outlining some of the other work that Saint Germain did. Of course, an author, an outstanding musician, and an inventor. So he created a port cleaning machine. He was also essentially a spy and involved in diplomatic revolutions for France as well as other countries. He wrote poetry, and this is actually a very interesting poem, and this is translated from French, so we don't quite get the poetic verse to it. But scrutator curious of nature's whole, I have seen the principle and end of all, gold in its puissance, deep in its mine. This Okay, now we have a connection to the Triangular Book of Saint Germain. This is the last page of the Triangular Book of Saint Germain, and we get another note in here along with one cipher. There's only been one other manuscript belonging to the Count of Saint Germain that has ever come to the notice of the public, and it is preserved at the library at Troyes and is published by the Phoenix Press in 1933. It gives detailed instructions for attaining three ends: the discovery of treasure lost at sea, the discovery of diamond, gold, and silver mines, and the prolongation of life. So interesting that the Triangular Book of Saint Germain is about a method for finding gold in mines, and in one of his poems, he's essentially saying the same thing, that he can see gold deep in its mine. Saint Germain's abilities as a statesman and diplomat seem to have been highly appreciated by Louis XV, as were his achievements as a chemist and ennobler of gems, which led Louis to give him a suite of rooms in his residence, where he spent whole evenings at Versailles with the royal family. Saint Germain knew the secret for the preparation of dyes and colors for painting and leather. He erected factories in which his new processes of dyeing were applied, one at Tournai for the dyeing of silk, wool, and wood, and for the preparation of scentless colors for paint. And another factory was established in Germany with the cooperation of Prince Charles of Hesse for the dyeing of silk and other fabrics, thus laying the foundation for the great modern industry of colored materials. The evidence for his skill in chemistry is indisputable. Now, the Industrial Revolution started in 1760, so this is before the Industrial Revolution. And what Saint Germain is doing is establishing factories. He's essentially starting the process of the Industrial Revolution with these factories. Nobody had ever established factories like this yet. So before the Industrial Revolution, merchants gave people raw materials for stuff that they could make inside of their house with tools they had in their house. And Saint Germain's work could not be given out in that way because it was innovatory. So because Saint Germain had a secret way of producing these paints and dyes, he couldn't have it done the traditional way where everybody was just doing it in their houses. He needed to establish factories. And so this would have been the Industrial Revolution taking place. And Saint Germain here is given credit for helping the onset of the Industrial Revolution, because with the establishing of these factories, this is something that had never been done before. And he had to work with the various nobility and explain to them what a factory was and how it was going to generate a profit, because they had never heard of anything like this before. So if you really dig into this, and Jean Overton Fuller's book is good on this topic, is that Saint Germain here is quite frankly credited with helping the onset of the Industrial Revolution, specifically in the area of dyes and paints. Franz Graffer has a book about Saint Germain, but it is written in German and it's very old, so I can't actually read it or translate it. But one thing he does say in here, Saint Germain said, "I am leaving. Do not visit me. Once again you will see me. Tomorrow night I am off. I am much needed in Constantinople and then in England, there to prepare two inventions which you will have in the next century, trains and steamboats. These will be needed in Germany." So again, the source for that is here, written in German, so I'm unable to confirm if he predicted the coming of trains and steamboats, but according to Franz Graffer, that happened. Saint Germain was also involved somewhat in the military. He was present at the Battle of Cheshme in 1770 with the Russian General Orlov, where this battle took place, being called the most bloody and most decisive sea engagement that has ever happened. And this was during a period of what is called the lost years in the life of Saint Germain. But from Russia, he seems to have gone to Italy and to have sailed with Russian General Orlov, A most bloody engagement that started on the 5th of July and ended on the 6th with the total destruction of the Turkish fleet, and that Saint Germain must have sailed with the Russian fleet close to Orlov and therefore probably on the same ship as he, and so participated in the action at Cheshme. And after this battle had happened, we have the quote that he is being one of the best swordsmen of his day. Against the background of ignorance and purposeless pedantry stands out sharply and clearly the luminous personality of the Comte de Saint Germain, master of the old wisdom, wise in forgotten truths, proficient in all the curious arts of antiquity, learned beyond any other man of the modern world. The mysterious Comte personified in his own incredible achievements the metaphysical traditions of 50 centuries. 1,000 times the question have been asked, where did Saint Germain secure his astonishing knowledge of natural law? How did he perpetuate himself from century to century, defying the natural corruption which brings prince, priest, and pauper alike to a common end? Saint Germain was the mouthpiece and representative of the brotherhood of philosophers which had descended in an unbroken line from the hierophants of Greece and Egypt. He had received the Logos. By his wisdom he had confounded the elders. The life of one man puts to naught the scholastic smugness of 2,000 years. So to wrap up the chapter, here is a list of his talents. He was a linguist of almost all known language. He was in the Secret Service, a spy, statesman, and diplomat, a historian, poet. He played many music instruments and was a master at the violin and the piano, a composer, ambidextrous, and could write perfectly with both hands, the exact same thing. A scholar, chemist, alchemist, author, artist, inventor. He had a photographic memory. He was a painter, a technical dyer and colorist, a swordsman, and a soldier. And this is why at the beginning I said it seems as though he's more talented than any one person could ever become in a single lifetime.
Saint Germain, your humble servant in whatever you